It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Groovy.
Yeah. Hanging in there.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay. I do apologize for not having an episode last week. That was totally my fault, and I apologize, but hey, things happen. Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
I'll skip the drama of what's going on in my little corner of the world. But has anybody watched the new Scoob movie yet? I think HBO finally put it out on their channel, but I don't know if it's a Max thing or not.
I have not watched it. No.
Not here.
It's not bad. I think it did. If you're a fan of the regular Scooby movies, this was a little different. I did like some of the references they threw out, and I don't know. Like I said, it was cool, but it wasn't what they normally do. But yeah, well, normally there's a total Scooby vibe to one of their movies, and I've probably seen every Scooby movie made. Just from having Boomerang. Boomerang plays that in Looney Tunes all the time, And I've noticed, even with the newer Scooby and the older Scooby, there's a theme, there's like I don't know how to describe it, there's a feeling to it, You always know there's something goofy that's going to happen, they fall into a mystery, and then they solve it. It's typical Scooby, This movie... it was cool because they deal a lot with Shaggy and Scooby's relationship. They even go back and give Scooby an origin story, which I thought was cute because he was a stray. And, I mean, who doesn't love a rescue? But, it was just, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. Shaggy kind of got jealous of Scooby because Scooby was in the spotlight for a moment. It's kind of like, anybody who's a Scooby fan, that would never happen. Shaggy is so laid back and carefree, it wouldn't have bothered him the way that they tried to play this up, He would have been happy for Scooby, So some of it was kind of way off, but it was cute for the most part. I think... I think the younger fans will definitely like it more. But like I said, if you've been a fan for Scooby for a while, I think that's where some of the bad reviews for this movie's coming from. Because it is a little different than a Scooby movie. Not a lot. I mean, there's still a, mystery and stuff. But, yeah. Well, it's a little different. I would still suggest watching it. I think some of the animation that was done... not crazy about the voice changes, but still they were all right too, But pretty cute little movie.
It's funny you kind of talk about that. Did you see that Velma was trending on Twitter today?
Was she?
Yeah. Did you see it, Mike?
No.
Oh. Well, apparently it's now canon that Velma is a lesbian.
I could see that, though,
Yeah. Because I saw you got to be careful when you see stuff trending on Twitter because it's either the dumbest things
Yeah.
or something that's nothing more than it's like some people are intentionally trying to make things trend, and then when you click on it, because everybody's going, oh, I thought this happened or this person had died, and I found out that no, that's not it, the reason. And of course, you get that freaking little gif of Denzel Washington kind of just putting his hand on his chest. It just you see it all the damn time, and oh god.
Yeah.
And you see 500 posts of that, you're like, okay, I want to blow my brains out. But yeah, I mean, I saw that, and I'm like, do I really want to take a look and see what this is about? And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I saw that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever,
See, and I think Velma then was what was missing in the movie. It was, yeah. Well, have you ever known of a Scooby movie where it's centered on one of the team without the others? And that's kind of what this movie was. So I felt like Fred, Daphne, and Velma were kind of extras,
So this was the Scooby solo album.
Pretty much. I mean, it really was.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is more about Scooby, but it's cool because it does throw back to some of the earlier Scooby episodes and stuff, and that's kind of neat. But I think Scooby on Hand's kind of always done that though.
So they focused on one character when it's an ensemble group. You're basically talking about every Star Trek film.
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of.
Yeah, but you expect it with a Star Trek movie. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Especially when it's the next generation. It's either Picard or Data, and then everybody else is just there. But,
at the very beginning of the movie, they're kind of telling them, "Hey guys, we have to make money," and I won't spoil it, but they meet with someone important, and he kind of tells them that Scooby and Shaggy are like, what are they?
Dead weight.
You've got, pretty much. They're like, you would do so much better without these guys. So they wind up leaving not leaving, like, we quit. They just left the meeting, and then stuff happens, So that kind of separated them, but it was kind of like, I don't know. You didn't see a lot of, of the team. And when you did, they were with the villain of the movie, and it was just cheesy. Although, I think I liked it because I won't spoil it, but the theme was like, oh, he's an asshole because he loves something.
Scooby Snacks.
Yeah. No, the villain.
Yeah.
The villain.
Oh, the villain. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, after watching it, it was like, I could see myself being a villain in that situation.
Wow.
Alrighty then.
Brave of you to step up for that.
Yeah.
I just don't think I'd get their laughs down, so I've stayed on the good side.
For now.
For now.
Go ahead.
Well, I had another question for you guys that I was asked, and this was actually in my Tim Burton group. They were looking for some Halloween movies. And she was like, yeah, I know. And I said, well, of course anything Carpenter is going to be good. Mm-hmm. I said, well, and then my second one was, I said, or, you're looking for scary, not necessarily Halloween, Rob Zombie. Oh my God. You would have thought that I, kicked everybody's puppy in the room, just for using John Carpenter and Rob Zombie in the same sentence. So it's kind of like, oh, wow. I didn't know,
The fan reaction to the Rob Zombie ones was not particularly good. from what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. See, and
I didn't care for him. I'll say that much. Right.
and I know for me, I was a Rob Zombie fan, like way before he started making movies. Even before he was Rob Zombie, I was his fan. So I probably am a little biased to the movies, but you said you didn't like them. Are they just bad movies, or?
They're not bad movies. Let me backtrack a little bit. I think I kind of understood what he was trying to do with the sequel. My problem with his Halloween 1 was his handling of Myers. And that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Once again, it's trying to explain something that didn't necessarily need to be explained. With the original franchise, it was okay. He's killing on Halloween, and then towards the end, when things really went off the rails, they introduced this whole it's part of a cult, and he's cursed by the thorn, and that he must kill his bloodline to serve the cult and that kind of stuff. And I'm going, okay, y'all are trying to do a little too much with this, but that's okay. But to turn around and say, okay, well, he's a kid that from a family that is there's no father. The father figure is just a lazy bum. Mom works at a dance place. She's a dancer. Older sister doesn't give a shit about him, so basically it's just him and his baby sister, Lori. And you're just going, he's trying to do a little too much explaining and try to make Myers sympathetic, and it's just like, you don't need to.
Yeah.
That was my problem with the first film.
See, I saw that more of trying to explain what his fascination with Lori was.
I mean,
Well,
and the thing that I thought was kind of interesting that he wasn't consistent with was there was Michael, just kind of this quiet kid who may get bullied and all this. Then all of a sudden he puts on a mask, and then he turns into the monster. That's when he starts killing. But he wasn't consistent with that. So it's like, okay, I'm not sure I understand what he was trying to do. But, I don't know.
yeah. So I think with the mask, though, don't we all, when we have that anonymity, feel a little bit more braver, or I won't say psychopathic like he did, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you take on a new...
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And that may be what he was trying to say.
Example, the internet.
Right.
Exactly. That's a very good point there, Mike.
Which, man, internet with people who have been locked up for a couple of months, oh my goodness. Like I said, some people were, because I pretty much said what I told you guys. Well, I've always been a fan of him, so maybe I am biased. I'll admit it. I like a lot of stupid shit because the person who made it, I read comics, right?
Well, I mean, if you like the films, you like the films. That's fine.
Right.
It's okay. That's something that seems to be lost on a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's okay not to like everything and not like the same things that I like. It's okay. That's not a problem.
Well, and like me and you, we have a difference of opinion right now.
Right.
We're not yelling at each other. We're
Right.
not calling each other names.
Yeah.
Y'all are just getting started,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're kind of early in the show.
It's kind of interesting when someone, takes off the rose glasses, I guess you can say, to where I can see it a little differently. I hadn't thought about those points in the movie, but I guess because I thought of them differently, you know. So it's kind of interesting, but to use to use those two names together are apparently sacrilege because they said that he pretty much shit on his work, and it was like, whoa.
That
That's
zombie
a harsh
shit
word.
on zombie shit on Halloween. You
Yeah,
obviously did not watch Halloween Resurrection.
right. Well,
Where oh god, what's his face? The rapper starts doing kung fu on Myers. I'm like, oh, that's okay.
yeah.
No, it's not. Come on, dude. What
I mean,
the hell?
I'm a fan of the franchise, but wasn't there one that Michael wasn't even in at all? Where they go and
Yeah, but because
10 more days of Halloween.
well,
It
because
was the mask.
that was Halloween 3.
Yeah.
Well, the intention was that it was not supposed to be a Myers franchise.
Ah,
They did the first one, and they were thinking if they do any more, it would be kind of like an anthology film. Okay, you have this story, and then for the next film, it may be something else. But the first one did so well that they had to come back and do a continuation of
so it
Myers.
was supposed to be like a creep show.
Yeah.
Different movies.
Yeah. So with the third one, they went off the different path. It wasn't well received for the most part because Myers wasn't in it. I mean, I love the film. It's a fun film. It has a lot of problems with it, but it's a fun film. But it gets crapped on because Myers is not in it.
Yeah.
And we really only got the other films is because the first two did so well in home rentals. They noticed, oh my God, the films are the people are renting the movies over and over and over again. We need to capitalize on this. So that's why there's a 10-year gap between the first one and the fourth one.
Yeah. Kind of like the Friday series too.
So
You mean Friday and Next Friday and those?
Yeah, well, I think during the 80s, a lot of the older slasher films did make a comeback. You know, that's when their sequels and stuff were made. Because you could be a little bit more cheesier and, you know, people weren't as offended and you could get away with a lot of fake blood. And yeah, so. But to me, that was the best time for horror films. I like the cheesy horror film. And some of these today where people are like, oh, this is so scary, you gotta watch it. And you're like, what's the point to it? You know, I don't want to watch a movie just to be scared. I want a good movie, a plot behind it, good characters, not just, you know.
Not most of the 80s stuff out of the park. Right?
Well, the 80s stuff kind of had a theme. Don't do drugs, don't have sex, and you'll make it to the end of the movie.
Maybe. See, and I think I've mentioned it. I mentioned on the show before. That's one of my major problems. Well, it's with a lot of today's horror films, but you know, the remake of Friday the 13th. I know a lot of people had problems with the handling of Jason. I didn't really. I thought it was kind of interesting. It's just that the characters, you spend a couple of minutes with them, and you're just like, you know what? I don't care if y'all all die in the next 5 minutes. Y'all are. There's nothing about you that makes me concerned that you're about to die.
Yes.
You're about to be murdered. And that's one of the things that's a problem with a lot of horror movies. They spend so much time on the kill and the killer that they don't spend any time on the character that makes them worth investing any kind of
you don't
empathy.
care if they die or not.
You don't care. You don't.
Yeah. And then they always have that one chick who's running and screaming, and it's like, God, will somebody hurry up and kill her? Shut her up. How did you find us? Because the blonde chick over here screaming.
It just, you know.
Yeah. But that was the formula for a good movie. Now it's just,
It's lazy writing. It
is.
Like I said, it's more focusing on having a killer that's really cool and does some really gruesome, awesome kills.
Yeah.
And everything else is just,
They go
whatever.
for the shock kill instead of the mental kill.
Well, they're writing the kill rather than the characters.
Right. Exactly.
Like The Purge. That's all that movie was built off of, was killing. Yeah, it was a neat concept, and it was cool for the first 20 minutes, but after that it was like, yawn, next.
I have not watched those. I've been kind of curious because it is a very interesting concept that for one night of the total year, basically anarchy rules.
Yeah.
I think that's a kind of interesting concept, but I'm going, really? Is that worth doing 5 or 6 films with? Okay.
Yeah. Well, see, that it plays on people's sick side because, a lot of people who watched the movie, it was like, ooh, well, I know who'd be on my purge list, And it's kind of like, I may despise a lot of people, but I definitely don't have like a hit list tucked away in my underwear drawer. So you guys are safe.
Shit, no, it's taped to her front door so everybody can see it.
No, it's taped up under the desk so nobody can find it.
Well, you speak about Halloween. Did y'all see the teaser trailer for Halloween Kills, which won't come out till October of next year?
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
I've heard it, but no.
Oh, I loved it. It hit the right vibe. If y'all allow me, I'll go ahead and describe it. It's literally moments after Halloween ended. You see bits and parts of Haddonfield, and then you flash over to the truck where you see Lori, her daughter, and her granddaughter are in the truck, in the back of the truck, heading. They're just kind of sitting there, kind of reflecting on what has happened and all that, and all of a sudden they start hearing sirens, and you flash over, and you see the fire trucks and ambulances. They're going to Lori's house to put out the fire, and they're screaming, "Let it burn! Let him burn!" That's it.
Cool.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
When does that come out?
October 21st. I think it's October 21st, 2021.
2021.
Yeah, it was supposed to be out this October, but with everything that's going on, they pushed it back a year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hopefully the movies will be open by then.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that. I was like, that's perfect. It's perfect. It kind of gives you an idea of, okay, because you watch the end of the film and you're going, okay, how the hell, if they decided to do a sequel, how are they going to get Michael out of this? How are they going to do this? There you go. Okay. Oh, shit. Yes. Okay. I get it now.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I got goosebumps. I was like, okay, I'm ready for this.
That is pretty cool.
Because I think I've said this several times. I love the Halloween 2018 film. It's not perfect, but it was great.
It was great.
It's just, it hit everything that made the first one so good. And it's just so many nods to the other films, which was great. But I enjoyed the heck out of it. Matter of fact, I want to see it again. It's been so long since I've seen it. I want to see it again.
And how we got here from Scoob, I'll never know.
Yeah.
He does a lot of Halloween episodes.
All right, fine.
I mean,
Oh,
it's a stretch, but it works, right?
Well, okay, here's kind of a tie-in. Did y'all see there's going to be a Halloween Scooby movie that's Scooby teaming up with Elvira and then guest appearance by Bill Nye,
Nope.
The science guy?
the science guy.
guy.
Oh, Lord. There's no hope for the world.
So there you go, Mike. It's all tied together. How's that?
In a neat little package.
All right. So how about you, Les?
Since no one else has anything to ask, well, why don't we go ahead?
Okay.
No.
Good night, everybody.
I took in 5 Boris Karloff movies.
Ooh.
Dang.
Hey, Halloween related. There you go.
Yeah.
Tied together. There you go,
It's
Mikey.
July, people. Come on.
The thing is, he played a Chinese detective,
Oh,
Mr. Wong. And there were 6 movies, I think, in the series, and he was starring in 5 of them. And this is from 1939 to 1941, maybe? So that's a lot of movies in a very short time.
Yeah.
It is.
But it was kind of interesting to see and take part in. Also, this evening I sat and watched Harry Nilsson's The Point and still enjoyed that. That's good for all ages. A lot of bright color animation, and the songs are beautiful. So if you get a chance, take a listen.
Nice.
Cool.
yep.
And by the way, how did I get ended up behind her?
It's just habit by this point.
Yeah, pretty much. The only thing that's changed is Mike hasn't had let off. He hadn't the last several episodes. It's just been Liz.
You know, might as well just let it get going at that point.
Yeah. Well, the way I figure it, because, get Liz and then you, and then Mike and I go, well, we don't have anything, so we'll move on.
This is an easy way to cop out, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did actually watch a couple of documentaries, and at the risk of starting this ball rolling again, I did watch the Terry Kath Experience one.
Yes.
Yes, that was very good.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very nice story, for sure. The other one I watched, I'm not entirely sure where it came. I mean, I found it on YouTube, but because of that, I'm not entirely sure where it came from. But it was basically kind of an hour-long review of the Yes album, Close to the Edge.
Okay.
Which was interesting. I mean, Yes is a very complicated band, just kind of right off the top.
Yes.
So that would. So what was interesting about this particular thing was most of the voices were like music writers. They were like journalists. They actually did some interviews with Steve Howe for it, but you didn't really hear anything from any of the rest of the band. This is just writers, and it seemed like writers and Yes fans, kind of in the same bucket. What made it interesting though, because they covered the album really really well, but then there was that, like, the last 10 minutes was this huge that put off this huge vibe of, and then it all went to hell, as in that was like their last good album in like 1972 or whenever that was. It was like it wasn't even like hidden. It wasn't veiled at all. It was very much. I mean, I think one guy even said, and after this, it's not even. You don't even waste your time. And I'm like, wow, that's harsh.
Yeah.
To say the least.
It may how fair it is, I'm not going to judge, but I mean, because that was like it was their 5th album, and it was like it was like there were 3 in a row. That was the third one in a row. And it was also the last album with what is considered to be their awesome lineup. Because that's essentially, if Yes fell apart, it was because it turned into a revolving door. People were in and out of that band all the time after that. And so it got weird at times. But yeah, there was a lot of talk about how egos got in the way, and they just started just doing whatever the hell they wanted to or thought they could get away with, and as far as the music is concerned. And I'm like, wow, this is rough. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting documentary for sure, but it was not only was the material interesting, the kind of the vibe was a weird ending for a music documentary for sure. But yeah,
it's interesting. I'm kind of go back to what you said earlier, is the fact that Steve Howe was the only member they talked to in this, and the rest of it was just fans and music journalists. I get that.
The journalists that were talking were clearly fans of the band. They didn't like bring in random people.
Right.
But it was a handful. It was like 4 or 5. There was some other people who were like around the band. There was a guy who was like a photographer they were talking about. There was a roadie they were talking to, and Steve Howe, and that was kind of it. And I mean, like I said, Yes became. You never were sure who was in the band at any given time for like.
Right.
I mean, for like 20 years. And so it got really weird. I mean, even when they had their resurgence in the 80s, that was only like 2 guys from the original lineup.
Well, true.
And these other people. I mean, what I thought was interesting was the other people were the Buggles, for example.
Wait, back up a second. The Buggles?
The Buggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, Video Killed the Radio Star. Yeah, well, they
Yes.
killed Yes, too. After they kind of sort of resurrected them a little bit. They had their big album in the 80s, 90125. That was Chris Squire and I think John Anderson was in and out at that point.
Yeah.
I think he was there for 90125, but they did a couple of other albums and he wasn't there. And yeah, that was what you heard. That was what was really popular in the 80s, apparently. See, and my history with that band is I honestly didn't get into Yes until way, way later, because despite or possibly because of the popularity of, for example, Owner of a Lonely Heart, I hated that fucking song. I hated it. I hated it. And so I was not interested in going back 20 years to listen to their early stuff. I did not care, even though it was a different band. I didn't even ever look into it. So it was like 20 or 30 years later that I finally looked at them and went, hey, I mean, you hear 3 or 4 of their songs from that 3-album span that I was talking about on classic rock radio all the time.
Right.
So it's not like they didn't do anything good. They did. They did some really awesome stuff, but I got blinded by the 80s, and so I never paid any attention to it. But anyway, like I said, it was interesting to hear people talking about it. Anyway,
That's cool.
I'm kind of the same way with the Bee Gees. Give me the early stuff, the pre-disco stuff. They were a great band. They got into the disco, and I just turned off the radio. I couldn't take it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Mike would also say the same thing about Genesis. To a point.
Yes.
Genesis did disco?
No.
Well, not the disco, but
Wow.
They had a long career before they got really popular in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of very interesting and very different stuff. And they had.
See, I didn't discover them until the 80s, though. But I know the music you're talking about. Does that make sense? You start listening to a band and you go back and listen to their,
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what most people do. Well, okay, I say that. That's what people like us do.
Right.
Most people just listen to whatever the hell they're playing on the radio or whatever comes up on their Spotify list or whatever.
And they think it's good.
People
I-
that
it's-
actually enjoy music do things a little differently.
Well, and I'll point out another band. It's not that I hate the more recent stuff, but I do have a love for the older stuff more. And you've already mentioned a member of that band, the Chicago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, once they became more hit oriented with the songs and all that, it's still good music for the most part. But the older stuff is so much more interesting.
See, I'm that way with Metallica.
lot of
This
people
new stuff, it's like, man, after the Black Album,
Yeah.
when they completely sold the rest of their soul, and it drives me crazy with these younger kids when they're like, oh, this is so good, Metallica. And it's like, no, go back and listen to Garage Days and then tell me about Metallica. That's where they got me at, you know?
Yeah, the Black Album was where they were in the process of
Yeah.
not being a metal band anymore.
The last half of the Black Album is where they lost me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Honestly, if they had, I mean, we probably shouldn't go this far, but yeah, if they had just ended at track 8, if they had just cut
Yeah.
the last 4 tracks off that album, it would have been perfect.
perfect. Yep. Puppets was the last, hell yeah, album. So, but yeah.
I agree. Oh, guess it's my turn then. I have nothing. Honestly, I've had some personal issues going on, but when I've had some downtime, I've actually, and this is going to be a nice little segue here, I've been working on our Discord. Yes, you heard right. We have a Discord now, and you are more than welcome to come join us. If you go to the website, www.thefellowshipofgeeks.net, if you look at our social media icons and podcast icons, you will see a Discord button, and that is an invite for you to come join us. Having some interesting conversations on there. I post some links to news items, whether it's TV stream oriented and movie oriented, or comics oriented, little gaming, just what have you. Try to have some fun stuff there as well. I've been posting memes. So by all means, come join us if you.
By all means.
By all means.
Uh-huh.
Continue, Liz. Go ahead.
Sorry. That just got me. Okay.
Go ahead and join us. Yes, Liz.
I'm trying to stop. Okay. I'm good.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah. Please join us on our Discord, and hopefully have a good time. I've been having a good time. How about you, Mikey?
Yeah, it's been fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. For this week's discussion, this was actually going to be done last week, so it had dropped. Would have been a great timing because last week would have been July 12th, which would have been 7/11. So we were going to discuss the 60th anniversary of two classic films, or at least I think they're classic. I love the hell out of them. The Magnificent Seven, which is a Western version of Seven Samurai by Kurosawa, and Ocean's 11, the film that basically put together the Rat Pack. So, if you're not familiar with these films or not seen the remakes that have come out within the last few years, Magnificent Seven tells the story of seven gunfighters, actually six gunfighters, and then a farm boy who wants to be a gunfighter, basically unite to save this Mexican town from bandits who keep coming in and stealing their food and all that,
Killing them.
and killing them if they ever try to fight back. A great cast. You've got Steve McQueen. You also have Yul Brynner, which apparently the two of them were kind of fighting on who was going to be the top dog in this film. You also have Charles Bronson, Robert Vaughn, James Coburn, Brad Dexter, and Horst Buchholz. Those are the seven. And the leader of the bandits was played by the great Eli Wallach. And a great score by Elmer Bernstein. Ocean's 11 tells the story of a group of veterans. I'm trying to remember, they were, the 52nd? I'm trying to remember what the 82nd Airborne, that's right. Who decided to get back together to pull a heist, robbing all the casinos in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve. Stars Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, Peter Lawford, Henry Silva, Norman Fell, Betty Lester. Those made up most of the 11, and you've got Cesar Romero and did a bunch of great cameos. So great, both of these are great films. So just figure we take a little time to kind of celebrate these movies and kind of discuss them a little bit. So with that, I relinquish the podium.
Wait, we have a podium?
In theory.
It's a virtual podium.
There you go. Go ahead, Liz.
Well.
Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, Liz, go ahead.
I have not seen a lot of Ocean's 11. I have a long time ago. I don't know, like I was saying before show, it's not one that really is my kind of movie. Bank heist or casino heist, that kind of thing. I have seen Magnificent Seven. It was really good. More recently, I've seen the remake of it. But it's, the typical train the town to be their own hero. Kind of, you don't need a hero. You just need to believe, you can do it yourself kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I'm probably not the best to ask about these. I'll join in, but, yeah. I would vote to see both of them, but...
Yeah. Okay. Mikey, your thoughts?
Okay, so let's... Now, I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
And it's probably better if we take these one at a time. In terms of Magnificent Seven, this is widely considered to be one of the greatest movies of all time. Especially greatest westerns of all time. Um, Now, you'll have to bear with me a little bit because I'm not really a fan of westerns, so it seemed flat to me. Um, one of my issues with westerns is that, I mean, even all of the really great ones tend to come out of a time where they're pretty much just, and this is, I don't know, I'm not quite sure how this is going to come across or sound, but they really tend to read like displays of excessive masculinity. I mean, one of my issues, for example, with Magnificent Seven is that there's really only two characters that display any emotion in this movie. And that's weird. That's not how people act. So honestly, my straight up opinion of this movie is that there are really only two people acting, and one of them is, I mean, doesn't really. I mean, he's kind of doing the best he can, but he's very inconsistent. I loved Eli Wallach in this movie. I will not lie. And this is where you get into some weird stuff too, but story wise, because it's not unusual for the villains in movies like this to be the interesting characters
Yeah.
because they're the ones doing stuff. They're the ones trying to do something. Usually the hero is trying to stop them. So their goal is status quo, which is boring, especially to
Yeah.
watch on a movie screen.
Right.
Eli Wallach does that role so well, though. He is so good at being. I mean, you can see, you can hear in his voice, you can hear the bravado, and you can hear you can almost hear him being way more scared than he's trying to appear. And it's, I mean, and honestly, there is like a 2-minute scene that displays that beautifully. And and then the rest of the time you're just sort of hearing it in his voice because he's not letting it show, because that's how westerns work. Is the big manly men with guns just walk around staring at each other and shooting each other. But I mean, that said, it's obviously a very good example of that. Um, I will give credit to Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen for doing a really good job of being emotionless creeps for the most part. And I like the movie better than it sounds. I feel like I'm bashing it, but it's just not my kind of movie. I mean,
Yeah.
there's and unfortunately I came at it late enough that and this is actually a testament to the music. The music all sounds cliche to me, but that's because it's been copied so many times in movies of any genre.
Right.
Across the board, everything has ripped off this music so much that it sounds cliche at this point, but that's because it was so cool at the time that everybody wanted to rip it off. This is the catch of the cliche, is that the reason it's a cliche is because it was really awesome at first, and then it got ripped off. And so it is, you don't get movie music like this anymore because of that, honestly, because it's become quote unquote cliche. And so people don't do it like that anymore. I would kind of be interested. I haven't seen the remake. I would be interested in hearing the music from the remake just to see what they did with it. But yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, it is a great example of what it is. And I mean, part of what it is I'll be generous and call it a retelling of a Japanese masterpiece of a film. Um, so there's that, but it's done really well. and it's got some big stars in it, and it's got a whole lot of shooting, and it's got a noble cause, and it's got all the stuff you really want in a Western. So I can see why it was really popular at the time.
Okay, Les, your thoughts?
In the pre-show, I made the statement, and I stand by it. This is a movie that I will shut down to watch. It doesn't matter where it is in the movie. I'll stop and watch it. This one came out when I was, a tween, thereabouts.
You were young and impressionable.
Yes. And it sat with me so well that the music is unforgettable. This to me is one of those that, like Jaws, the music starts, you know exactly what movie it is. And it represented big action at that time. This was going to pave the way for more Westerns. Something that I was hoping a movie like Silverado would do, would bring back Westerns. Because to me, a Western is the only truly American thing that happened in the world. A Western, the expansion of the states, the migration west, and a Western is, to me, is a defining moment for American history. This movie starts off with a funeral, and yet it is a catching point. It's a spark right there. And to hear the first gunshots in this movie gives me goosebumps, because it's a magnified Foley effect to get these shots to fire. A lot of movies do that now, but if you watch some earlier Westerns, they would just be riding along and shooting, but you couldn't hear the report like you did in this movie. You had a large number of stars in this. To me, the only weak role was Robert Vaughn. To me, everybody else held their own, even a kid, Horst Buchholz, that I'm not really sure. I haven't looked on IMDb to see what else he did. But he played the hothead very well. The romance part of it was a little weak, but so was Star Wars, which was basically a remake of the Magnificent Seven. So it all, to me, this movie all melded well. And I was, as a kid, I loved it. I thought this was great stuff. And like I said, I still shut down to watch this. Anytime it comes on, doesn't matter where it is in the movie, I've got to stop and watch. Just because the minute I hear the music, just a few bars of the music, I know where I am in the movie, and I know what's going to happen. Yet I'm still mesmerized by what happens. I have not seen the remake. I really don't know that I wish to see the remake. But to me, this is like 12 Angry Men. I don't want to see the remake of 12 Angry Men because what I saw was the greatest story. And that's the way I look at Magnificent Seven. And I know that Yul Brynner played the part in the second movie. But then I think the 7 movies after that, I think there were 2, maybe 3 more.
Yeah.
They didn't hold a candle.
Oh, yes, I know.
And of course, Brenner, wearing his outfit, showed up in 2 science fiction movies in the same outfit, which was great. Westworld and Future World. So I'm all for Magnificent Seven. I can't sing enough praise on it because it is defining to me. It's a defining Western, one of those few that are still around or that lasted this long. So
Yeah.
I'm in for it, and if you get the chance, Liz, sit down because it is a fun ride. No pun intended.
Yeah, I think I've seen the Magnificent Seven. They said I did see the remake for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't Adam Sandler do like a parody of this movie or something? Or it's like this Super 7, or it was something like that. I can't remember the title now, but
That I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I'll have to.
I want to go back to a point that Mikey brought up. And I understand what you're saying. The thing about Eli Wallach, I mean, he brought conflict. It was conflict to the story arc. Otherwise, there would have been kind of a boring story. And I get that. And I think Eli was awesome in this film. But then again, I like Eli Wallach just about everything he does. And yeah, there's the whole thing of the silent hero and that kind of thing. I kind of get that. And man, I mean, Clint Eastwood basically built a career out of that after doing essentially the same thing with the Man with No Name movies. I love the film. There's kind of a romance to it. It's a traditional Western of the time, but it seemed to be a little bit above some of the other films that were Westerns that were coming out at the time. Do you agree, Les?
Yes. At that time, you had a lot of Audie Murphy, which I enjoy, but a lot of Audie Murphy films back in the early 60s. And there's a person that I'll watch on the Western Movie Channel just for fun. But the 7 brings a whole new light to what people will consider, especially consider as classics. This is just one that can stand the test of time. Thank goodness. I don't know what I would do if I had to watch something else, because I would get real tired of the OWN, I'm sure. So I'll just stick with the classics on the movie channel. This one plays a lot on it, which is fine with me.
Okay. We want to go ahead and talk about Ocean's 11 then?
Ocean's 11 was a film that was brought out mainly to play upon the popularity of the Rat Pack. And it's a fun film. It did not spawn sequels like the remake did, or the version of the female crew in what was the name of that one?
Ocean's
The third
8.
one.
Ocean's 8.
Ocean's 8, yes. So Ocean's 11 was fun. It to me, I'm sorry, but it's not one that I would just make sure I watched again and again. Because there are members of the pack that I really like. In fact, there was a movie with two of the pack members, a Western. I'm sorry, we're getting back to that. But there was a Western with Joey Bishop and Dean Martin, of all things. And Joey Bishop played, of all things, an Indian who was essentially drunk through the whole movie, and it was a comedy. I think it may have been Texas Across the River. But anyway, Ocean's 11 was a springboard for these actors. And I don't have a problem with that. I just personally wasn't that involved with it. So that's about all I can tell you about it. Sorry to say.
And you are correct. It is Texas Across the River.
Wow. Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk it?
Also had Peter Graves in it.
Yes. Yes, he was the I want to say like the marshal, but he was an idiot. So I went, yeah, that's good. Go on and lead the IM force, you dreck.
Captain Rodney Stinson is the character's name. Yeah, Kronk was, his name for Joey Bishop's character. Yep.
Who were the female leads in that?
Rosemary Forsythe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tina Amont.
Okay.
Michael Ansara.
Yes.
There you go. Would later be Mr. Freeze on Batman the Animated Series, amongst everything else.
Yeah, considering he was also every Indian this side of the Rockies.
Yep.
He did Star Trek too, of course.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
And was married to Barbara Eden at one time. I did not know that.
Yes.
That sounds familiar. I think I heard that somewhere along the line.
If I knew that, I had totally forgotten.
That's where I thought he was the luckiest man in the world.
From 1958 to 1974. My thoughts about Ocean's 11. I like the film. I like the chemistry between the guys, but that's because they were already pals. Because I mean, they were doing acts in Vegas while they were filming this at the same time, so they were always just together. It's really kind of cool to look at this film and see how Vegas was back in the day, and just a time where this doesn't really happen. Obviously, it doesn't happen anymore. That when you go out on town, I mean, you dress up. I mean, you're going to just go to a show or play slots, but you're still kind of dressed up.
Yeah.
That's something that doesn't really happen nowadays, except for special occasions, that kind of thing. It's just kind of a nice little peek at the way things were back then, and it's just kind of to me, it's kind of a popcorn film. I mean, don't expect anything deep. It's just, and things to make a whole hell of a lot of sense. It's just a little fun ride.
True. I will agree to that.
So what were your thoughts, Mikey?
Well, in all fairness, I have not seen it. At least not all of it. I've seen pieces of it along the way. This is another one that doesn't appeal to me, mainly because I never really kind of grasped the whole Rat Pack thing. I sort of recognized what was going on there, but it wasn't ever something that appealed to me. I did see the remake, and honestly wasn't super impressed with it. So it just kind of never occurred to me to go back and watch the original because of that. So, like I said, I mean, you see bits and pieces of it here and there, or you catch part of it flipping channels or on one of the movie channels or whatever. But yeah, it has never really. I mean, part of it is other than from like you, people who really like the movie, I never really heard anything great about it either.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, whereas I felt this is going to sound bad, whereas I felt semi-obligated to watch The Magnificent Seven because it's so highly regarded by a wide group of people. I kind of, it's one of those movies, that's one of those movies that I want to watch someday. I watched it. Don't start with me. But it's one of those movies. The Magnificent Seven is one of those movies I want to see someday because everybody thinks it's so great. I want to kind of take a look at why. I never got that with Ocean's 11, so I kind of never bothered. And when given a choice between watching the Terry Kath Experience or Ocean's 11, I picked the Terry Kath thing.
Yeah.
Even though that makes me a terrible person.
No. It wasn't really my cup of tea either. Like I said, I like the Rat Pack,
Yeah, see, I never really cared about the Rat Pack that much.
See, I liked them more individually than a pack, but yeah, I mean, wasn't like Marilyn Monroe? Wasn't she like they considered her a Rat Pack mascot, or along with Angie Dickinson, and I can't even remember the other girl now that was real popular back then too. But
Jill St. John.
Maybe that was it.
Isn't she a little young for them? Jeez.
No, maybe Shirley MacLaine?
Well, she was in the film. She had cameo in the film.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe so. But on back in the day, they used to do the Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin did their. Oh, it was for kids. What was it again?
The telethon.
Yeah, the telethon. Well, during the telethon, they would always play either their movies or a lot of his movies. So, I've watched bits and pieces of it from things like that. And, for a while, my grandmother lived with us, and that's all I could watch was black and white TV. But, yeah, and, they were more tolerable. I mean, I liked pretty much everything I saw Dean Martin in. I tend to go for his comedy more. I didn't see this one as being a comedy, though.
It really wasn't.
Frank Sinatra. Mr. Blue Eyes himself.
Hey, Les.
Yeah.
They're going to be in a world of hurt when I tell them that we're going to be doing Robin and the Seven Thieves. Or Seven Hoods.
Seven Hoods.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, which is essentially Ocean's 11 in a different format.
Mm-hmm. In a different time period, too. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So. Just joking, guys.
Just get ready.
It's like,
Or am I?
Whatever.
Wahaha.
Bring it on.
Yeah, I mean, no, I get it. It's just, like I said, it's just kind of a fascination of I pretty much said what I said. It's a fascination of just how things were back in the day, because that's something that I never really experienced. So it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, it's just kind of a lightweight film. So I mean, I get you what y'all are coming from.
So I have a question. Kind of.
The answer is 42.
Right. It's not movie related, but it is movie related. With the Rat Pack.
Okay.
Had they have been popular today, do you think they would have been as popular, or do you think that with social media, like as many times as, with all the scandals and stuff that you hear about after these people passed on, do you think they still would have been as popular?
Passed on, hell, they were dealing with the scandals while they were doing these movies.
That's true.
Some.
But it was, well, right, not necessarily everything, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't as big a deal back then. I don't know what changed really, but.
I know in middle school, I had a T-shirt with Frank Sinatra's mugshot. And
That's
one to memorialize him.
It was a pretty cool T-shirt, but he was in a lot of trouble, in and out of a lot of trouble. To have a mugshot of him wasn't very uncommon, but by the time people found out about it, it was usually months later. The scandal had passed. He'd already did whatever, and
your community service or whatever.
Right. Well, things tend to sweep under the rug. Like Marilyn Monroe. Look at all the scandal that's left behind now that she's passed on. Things that we won't know, but had it been Lindsay Lohan, we would have known what she had for breakfast that morning, who came to see her. I think that would have been a whole different time for them. I think if Marilyn did commit suicide, I think she probably would have done it sooner. That sounds horrible, but with all of the scandal and how much of a people pleaser she was, I think it would have got to her.
And I don't want to make this too awkward, but I mean, if she was around today, she'd have been on medication.
Well, she was. She had like a whole cocktail of pills that she took to keep normal. Or I hate saying that, somewhat normal. But, you take the wrong pills with the wrong drink and boom, there you are. But that was part of the problem, was sorting out all the medications she had, you know. But I think with some of her mental illness, I think maybe it would have been treated a little better because it's not as taboo
Right, that's my point.
as it was. Yeah. So I think
What she's doing recreationally is I mean, Christ, look at what Michael Jackson was taking when he was.
Right.
I mean, so that hasn't changed much, but yeah,
Well,
I mean, if you're actually dealing with the issues that you have, then maybe things do turn out different.
yeah. And I think a lot of her pills that she was taking was treating things, but it was all treating the depression she had. They were treating her symptoms differently, but it wasn't depression, you know.
Right. So yeah,
Yeah.
60 years of medical science advancement would have made a difference there, but
Yeah.
I mean,
But, you know, nowadays we treat our celebrities like freaking heroes, that they can't go and eat a burger without it being plastered all over Twitter. Hey, you know, they were wearing Coco shoes. You know, so
Or TMZ.
Yeah. I think some of their scandals, you know, and for some of them, a secret life that they wanted to keep hidden would have been kept hidden, or wouldn't have been kept hidden.
yeah, it would be different.
Yeah. But they were still pretty great for the time.
I'm mulling this over. The internet is a fine place to find facts, if they truly are facts.
Yeah, it's a good place to find bullshit too. But anyway.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you want to check up on information that is not totally correct, it's one way to find out. It's not necessarily the only way to find out. But if the Rat Pack was around now, I think most everything would be almost swept under the rug. Yet, how to say this? Okay, well, look at some of the people in front of the populace now. Would you pay any attention to some of these people? I'm sorry, but we'll say nothing against him, but Post Malone, would that make a difference to you? I just have problems with some of the celebs now because they're using their celebrity status incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they're influencing people that they shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have no basis to spout what they are saying.
Yeah.
And
Kardashians.
it's just one of those things that you've got to make up your own mind, for one, but be informed as to what you're going to move forward to.
Yeah.
Do you though? I mean, come on. I think, if nothing else, our current crisis, a lot of the stuff going on in our current crisis, proves that you really don't have to bother understanding what's going on around you in order to have an opinion. Because, I mean, you can spout whatever the hell you want on the internet. And you can be as stupid as you want, and nobody's going to stop you.
No. Well, yes and no. You can be as stupid as you want, but people will stop you. That's where we get our cancel culture from right now. For the past 2-3 weeks now, hell has like swallowed 2 of my fandoms. Just something somebody had said maybe 10 years ago, and now they're bringing it up and they're being canceled for it. And I mean, it's insane. And a lot of what I'm seeing, yes, it's gross, it's sick. No, they shouldn't have said it. No, they shouldn't have done it. But it was 10 years ago, you know? It's like, why? If 10 years ago you looked at this and you thought it was funny, and this person has millions of views from it now, and now here we are 10 years later, it's no longer funny. What? I mean, it's insane what they will cancel people over nowadays. To where most of the time I won't say anything at all on social media because they take it and they twist it, and yeah.
And then
You
someone
could say,
posts,
yeah,
"Did you hear what she said?"
yeah. Look what she did. You could say you love dogs, and by the end of the night, they're like, "Man, did you hear she kicked her puppy?" But it's crazy, and I almost feel bad for some of these celebrities, though, because now not only do you have to do your job, but you have to worry about what you're doing in public and what you say and what you do. And even if you're joking around, people don't get that it's a joke, May not be the best joke, but, But isn't that kind of what you sign up for?
True.
Don't cash the check if you can't walk the walk. I mean, I don't know. But, I mean,
There's a metaphor in there somewhere.
Well, when you think about being famous, is that not part of it? People are going to take pictures. People are always going to be up in your business, and you don't get famous overnight and go, "Wow, I didn't know they'd follow me to eat breakfast." Yes, you did. It's kind of what you signed up for when you took your acting classes, or you said your private life is over.
It's funny how people, no matter what point in history you look at, there are always people who never figured that out.
Yeah. Well, and then you have people like Tim Burton and Helene Bottom who they know they're famous. I mean, there's no way not to. But instead of, it seems like we over here in America are a little bit more crazy than the rest of the world. So they live out of the country.
We're not crazy. We're just worse at hiding it.
Right. But they had more of a private lifestyle and was able to raise their kids and stuff out of the public eye because they're like, look, we know we're popular. We know we're famous. Let's move somewhere where we can be normal. And when we're here, we're normal. And when we're there, we're famous, And it works. Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt did the same thing. They moved their kids out of the country, got them out of the cameras, and,
And then got divorced like every good Hollywood couple.
Yeah. And wound back up in the tabloids. But, so yeah, I think it would be, I don't know. It'd be nice to have the crooners back, though.
Man, how we got here from Scoob, I'll never understand.
Really?
It's a long, arduous road.
Right.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we take a break and get away from this?
Very quickly.
Run far away from this.
No, I'm good.
Chicken.
He said running sounded good.
Okay, on that note, we are taking a quick break and be right back. it's time for weekly picks, and as you are aware of, with the current situation, what we have been presenting is a round of books that will be coming out this week. But in addition to that, we are presenting some choices that for titles that are already out on the shelves, or that your local comic shop may have. As something that you might have missed and just want to check, you should check out. So with that stated, I start off this week, and for my new title, it is a collection from DC Comics. It kind of follows up the storyline we kind of talked about a couple weeks ago, the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Hard Traveling Heroes. It's followed up with this collection called Space Traveling Heroes. And this is written by Denny O'Neil, who wrote the Hard Traveling Heroes story arc. But he is joined by Mike Grell. And these stories were my introduction to Mike Grell's artwork, along with Legion of Superheroes at the time, and then, of course, his own creation, The Warlord. So this collects Green Lantern, Green Arrow, issues 90 through 106. And I highly recommend it. I can't wait to get my hands on this.
Yep.
Nice.
I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Les, you are next.
My new pick comes from Artists, Writers, and Artisans, and it is The Resistance, number 3. The Resistance is a situation where the world has to adjust to superpowered reborns, and it's a 6-issue series, so this will be the halfway point. Be sure to grab this, because it's got some exquisite artwork by Mike Deodato. And, of course, the writer is the famous J. Michael Straczynski, who has done movies and comics and books and all sorts. So if you get the chance, try this one out. The first issue is phenomenal, and I have followed 1, 2, and I've had a copy of the third issue. So, yeah, step in and get this one. Find it as soon as you can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
It does.
Yep. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. Well, I have another fun one for you guys, too. Last year, I don't even think it was it was last year. We did a cover of Canto, C-A-N-T-O, Canto.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, they were kept enslaved by people who took their hearts and gave them all clocks. And he fell in love with this little girl, and they broke her clock. So he goes on this mission to find the people who've taken their hearts. So this one, it ended, I won't tell you how it ended, but this one here is called Canto and the Clockwork Fairies. It's a one-shot which they're using to bridge the first arc with the second story arc. He's come back and he's taking his people to somewhere else. Well, they haven't told us where that somewhere else is. I think that's the second arc. But on the way, he runs into fairies who sees that they've been enslaved also. So Canto doing what he does, he decides that he's going to be the hero and he's going to save the fairies. So it should be a really cute one. The first one, it was a really short mini-series, but it was really cute. Had a good theme to it. Kind of reminded me of Tim Burton's 9. But I'm excited for this one because this means that we're about to have a second story for us. So definitely a good one. Brings back David Booher with Drew Zucker. So we have the originals telling us the same story. Well, not the same story, but
The next stage.
The
of
next
story.
stage.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
The next story.
Yep. Yeah, I really like the first arc of this too.
Yep.
So I'm ready for this.
It was really cute.
Yep.
Nice. Alrighty, Mikey, you're next.
Alrighty. So my brand spanking new pick is actually a trade. This is the trade for Tales from Harrow County, which is from Dark Horse. And this is, and kind of in the same vein as the Kanto thing, this is kind of the next step in the story. This is set 10 years after the goings-on of the end of the Harrow County run. And so this is Emmy's friend Bernice has kind of taken over in Emmy's absence, and this collects a 4-issue series of her adventures, and I actually have to admit I kind of missed out on this thanks to all of the fun of 2020. So I am looking forward to picking this up and continuing the story too.
Nice.
Sounds very cool.
Yeah. Alrighty. It is my turn again, so I am picking a title that you may have missed. It's a collection, also another collection, and this is from DC Comics as well. And it's kind of a fun one. It's kind of there's kind of a nostalgia here for me. It's titled Superman, Batman, Saga of the Super Sons. And this collects several stories that were printed in World's Finest Comics. And these were imaginary stories. And that's at least that's what they were calling them back in the, was it early 50s? Was it during the 50s? I know 60s and they were being phased out a little bit. They were being phased out in the 70s. But
it was mainly in the 60s.
Okay, so 60s and being phased out during the 70s. And these kind of stories would be now told in, well, they were told in Elseworld, under the Elseworld imprint. I'm not sure what it would be now, but because they're not really doing that kind of thing. I guess the closest thing would be Black Label, but that's a little bit more of the adult stuff. But this obviously is the story of Batman and Superman's sons. And of course, we don't know who the mothers are. I mean, we see them, but we don't see their face, and they're never identified other than mom, that kind of thing. But they're crazy, fun stories. I remember reading these when I was young, and it's just a nice little trip back. And it's kind of funny. They obviously were trying to capitalize on the popularity of the current Super Sons, Damian and John, because this was actually put out a couple of years ago. But it's just kind of a fun read, so I definitely recommend you checking this out.
I agree.
Cool.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
My second choice is a collection also, and this is from Dynamite. It is Jungle Girl. They've got it in omnibus form. This is a 3-chapter series. Each chapter has like 4 to 6 parts. This was something put out in issue form with the script and plots written by Frank Cho and Doug Murray, with Cho doing the covers. The interiors were done on the first 2, what they call seasons, by Adriano Batista. The third season was by Jack Jadson. And this is this is an idea for. It's got to be Cho doing this because it is a gorgeous girl running through the jungle and saving people. Kind of reminiscent of Sheena, not the movie.
Or the singer.
Yeah, but it's just good action and several plot twists in it. So dig this one up because it's fun read and the omnibus is fairly new. So I do recommend this one for anybody, especially Cho lovers. This is good stuff, and the interior work is magnificent too.
I love Cho.
Oh, I do too.
Nice. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my old one, this one came out in May of 2018. It took Zenescope's two hottest properties, which was Lascelles Van Helsing and Robin Locksley, and pit them against each other in Van Helsing versus Robin Hood. Like I said, these two girls usually are in their standalone comics. Any comic they're in, they wind up kicking ass. So when you put them together in one story and put them against each other, it was pretty cool. It starts off there's like a drug that's hit the streets, and it's turning people into, they never say vampires, but it's vampire-like. I mean, that's why Helsing is investigating. But Robin winds up getting infected. Well, what happens to a vampire when you have a Van Helsing chasing them? So, pretty good little story. I think there was originally 4 books to this story, so it's a short story, but pretty quickly paced. By the end of the first chapter or the first issue, you definitely knew what was going on in the story, and Ralph Tedesco had really set you up for a fast-moving, ass-kicking little series here. So definitely pick this one up. If you're a fan of either girl, I think they did both of them justice in this series, because it was kind of like, I don't know if I want to see Robin get a stake driven through her heart, but he did a good job on that one. And he also did a really good job of, since this is both of their stories, that they both got the fair amount of time. It wasn't more of Robin's story. It wasn't more of Lascelles' story. It's both of their story. So good artwork, fast moving, quick read.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that story, and it was a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Nike.
Okie dokie. So my old pick is maybe older than some, but not as old as others. I am recommending that everybody get themselves familiar with Usagi Yojimbo. This is obviously the title we've talked about before on the show, because there's still an ongoing title going on. There's actually an ongoing title and a kind of a classics reprinted title. IDW's got them right now, but if you go back at all, you'll probably be looking for something from Dark Horse or Fantagraphics, because Stan Sakai moved his stuff to IDW a couple of years ago.
Right.
But so anyway, this is the story of a samurai who wanders the countryside, fighting evil and righting wrongs. So it's a it's not a superhero. He's mostly solving problems and unraveling mysteries. So there's kind of that element to it. It's actually an interesting mystery story most of the time, and obviously there's some of the samurai code type stuff going on. So there's a lot of nobility and fighting for what's right and all of that stuff. And it's done really, really well story wise. And the art is actually he kind of, I don't know if it was intentional that he chose to portray Usagi as a rabbit, an anthropomorphic rabbit. But so there's kind of other anthropomorphic animals as well. I mean, one that pops to mind is he's got a friend who's a rhinoceros. He's just kind of a bigger dude, and he's got the head of a rhino, and it all fits together really well. It's a lot of fun. I wouldn't call this a comedy, although it has some funny moments. There's pretty serious stories here, but there's a lot of good material because he's been doing this like since the mid '80s. So there's plenty of stuff out there to get hold of. If your shop doesn't have all of the books, they are likely to have at least one. I mean, even if it's something more current. That's okay too. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. I agree.
Good choice.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
I feel like I've been out of touch for a week, so I don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a couple things.
Okay.
One is news that the new program on, I think it's going to be on HBO Max, called Gotham PD, is coming out, and they are saying that it is going to be a prequel to the new Batman movie.
Huh.
And I'm really willing now to pick up HBO Max just so I can watch this.
They've had some really good shows put on there. I'm liking the Perry Mason one that they've done, so I think they'll do pretty good with Gotham.
And I watched the Perry Mason. I thought that was really different because you don't have the slick lawyer that was portrayed before by Raymond Burr.
Yeah.
So
kind of the opposite.
Yeah. Almost, he's almost sleazy, but it's good. The other thing is, after 25 years, Gary Larson is back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you go to his website, thefarside.com, he posts daily pictures, daily cartoons, and they are as funny as I found them 25 years ago.
They are.
In fact, they've got 2 new ones for today, and I just say, just sit down and read these because they are so funny. The man has a great sense of humor. I recall meeting him at a bookstore here in Dallas area. I went to the signing. There was a posting for a signing, so I went to the store and I walked up and the table was empty. It was not bare. There was stuff there, but he was just out in the store looking at books because there was nobody there to get signed.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So I went up and talked to him for a few minutes and said, well, I'll meet you back at your table. And he said, okay. And after about another 10, 15 minutes, I walked over there about the same time he was getting to the table and got some stuff signed.
That's cool.
Cool.
He's a very, very funny guy, too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to hear he's back.
Yes. Yeah, and he's only been back 2-3 days, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, we kind of need his humor right now.
I agree.
So.
Yep.
All right. Any other special shout-outs or mentions this week?
Nope.
All right, we'll move on to our regular shout-outs. First off, we'll Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow podcasters. We highly recommend you check them out. There will be a link on our show notes. Thank you guys for your support as always. And of course, we want to thank the fine folks who make up Potter Family on Twitter for their support of this show. Recommend you check them out. The easiest way to do that is to go to Twitter and do a search, #PotterFamily, and just scroll through, and if whatever catches your attention, click on that link, download an episode, and hope you have a blast listening. Thank you guys as always. Also want to thank Manny and Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. Definitely want you to check out their music. There will be a link in the show notes for them as well. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support as always, and we value your feedback. Any kind of questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out there if you so desire. We recommend that you follow us on our social media. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. We're obviously on Twitter, @Fellowship Geeks. Follow us there. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, you can do that. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And just a reminder, we do have the Discord up. You just go to the website, click on the Discord icon, and you will get a personal invite to join us. And we have a channel just for feedback, or you can just contact us through there as well. Hopefully you have a good time on our Discord. And like I said earlier, we've been having a good time with it. And from wherever you download listening to our podcast, if you would be so kind as to rate and review our show, it would greatly be appreciated. Is there anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, friends. We do appreciate your support, as always. And until next time, geek on, my friend.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,